and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the northeastern corner of South Africa. That is a white-browed scrub robin, and you are watching Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
I'm trying to imitate it. He's so confused now. Good morning again, everyone. My name is James. On camera is Brian today, who will show you his beautifully Monday decorated thumb shortly. On the other vehicle, Jamie Patterson. She's being filmed by Jean-Andre and his very greasy dreadlocks. And the final control, Louise, is being ably assisted, I think, by K. Max Smithereens this morning. It's difficult to tell these days. And we are coming out to try and find some lions. If you're perhaps joining us for the first time, this is not the white-browed scrub robin show, but because this bird is sitting so beautifully and singing for us there, I thought we'd just spend a time listening to him and watching him singing away. He's a very splendid fellow. Please talk to us. As that white-browed scrub robin is singing and tweeting away, you may tweet at us, #SafariLive, or questions@wildearth.tv if you prefer to use the email. Either will work just as effectively. And once we've finished looking at this white-browed scrub robin, we'll be going towards the eastern side of Djuma. That's where we are right now. And we're going to go and see if we can find the Nkuhuma pride of 5 lionesses, 8 cubs, and perhaps a male or 2. Brian, that was an excellent beginning, I feel, don't you? It is not often that we get such spectacular bird sightings. It is also, of course, you will have to excuse me, very difficult to say white-browed scrub robin at this time of the morning. Normally one says, as I did just now, fra-sha-sha-sha-sha. Brian, what is the thumb today?
Monday blues.
The Monday blues. Of course, we don't have Monday blues here because, well, Monday's the same as Sunday and Saturday and Friday and Tuesday and Wednesday and even Thursday. Right, on we go. If you are perhaps joining us for the first time, like I said, we're on a little place called Djuma, which is part of the Greater Kruger National Park and indeed the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, which is 8.5 million acres of wildlife wilderness wonderland. That's very many W's in one go. There's the sun coming up, everyone. And one must almost stop to pay homage to the African sun as it peeps up over the horizon, as it is doing right this very instant. Here it comes, Brian. Do you see it?
I do.
Peeping.
I'm excited.
I'm overwhelmed. There it is, everybody. Boiling over the horizon like a sun. It is 14 degrees Celsius apparently, which is 58 degrees Fahrenheit. It does feel a little bit nippy, but certainly not cold by any stretch. And that great bubbling orb coming up over the eastern horizon will shortly warm us. Look how fast it's moving. It's almost like Brian is engaging in trick photography of some kind. Super zoom, son. Very nice. It is quite astounding, the speed at which it's moving. That is not in any shape, way or form edited, everyone. There's no speeding up of the picture you're watching there. It really is quite spectacular. Cadria, I agree with you completely as we watch the sun peeping up. You say robins have the best songs. I agree. I love the call of the white-browed scrub robin. And that one was doing a particularly different call. The tone is very obvious, but the actual notes, I don't think I've heard them do before. Brian, one should always, I think, move on when the sun is 2/3 above the horizon, don't you? Yes, I think that's the rule.
As per tradition.
As per tradition. Hello, Jen B. You say that bird makes number 145 on your list. Good stuff. That's a good number to have, and no doubt it will increase as the migrants begin to return. Let's head across to Jamie Patterson, find out what her plans for the morning are. I think she's doing some more filming with Jean-Dre, the, where shall we say, OCD cameraman. Off to her. I'll see you later.
And a very good morning to all of you on this beautiful sunrise safari. And I think James and myself had a very similar idea to just stop for a moment and take in the beauty that is an African sunrise. Just have a look at this. Beautifully picturesque. And while we sit, there's a certain, despite the dryness, a certain feel of spring in the air. You're listening to a white-browed scrub robin with James. They're all chirping away merrily here as well. And the drongos and the hornbills and the go-away birds. There's even the faintest smell of moisture, a bit of petrichor in the air when we woke up this morning. I'm sure it will burn off very shortly, but for now, it is an exceptionally pleasant time to be out in the African bushveld. And here comes the sun. So our plans on this lovely spring morning. Well, apparently we have to do some behind-the-scenes filming, and Jean-Dre once again will be giving me instructions. As you know, it's one of my favorite things to do. I'm never awkward at all, and I always know exactly what I'm doing. That, of course, was entirely sarcastic. It's something I'm not very good at. But apparently we've got to go and find some fresh elephant dung and other such things, whilst the light is beautiful and golden. But a very good morning to you all once again. Quick introduction, my name is Jamie for new viewers, and this morning I have Jean-Dre on camera with me, which is very lucky because he's very good at telling me what to do and how to do all the behind-the-scenes filming, which is exactly what it is I need. And our plans after that, well, I thought I might trundle along to Cheetah Plains, but we'll see how we go with our 25 takes of sifting through elephant dung. I think we better go off and find some on that note. Go off and investigate. I heard some lions roaring this morning, but they sounded very far away. They sounded suspiciously like they were in Buffelshoek, which is the property to the north of our boundary. And they're not around at the moment, or at least some of them are not around at the moment. That's not to say the others are not. And there you go, to Lucy in South Bend, Indiana. You were saying that you could hear lions on the dam camera. I could hear them too. Perhaps there are some still closer. The Nkuhumas have not really moved around all that much. I know that they provided some amazing scenes yesterday on the sunset safari with Tristan. He was very, very chuffed. The Nkuhumas are rock stars, I believe, was the conclusion. Something suspiciously out of place in that tree. I'm going to go and investigate. And while I do, and while I go off in search of some fresh elephant dung to do some behind-the-scenes filming, let's jump back on board with James and see if he's enjoying this gorgeous morning as much as I am.
I would rather quite like to know what that suspicious thing in a tree was, wouldn't you, Brian?
I would too.
Do you think it was maybe a leopard?
Maybe.
Ooh. Ooh, potentially, maybe. But I don't know for sure. Who knows? We'll have to wait for Jean-Ray to finish the filming before we find out. Right, we're now on the northern boundary, everybody, and we're heading east into the rising sun. Well, we will be in approximately 6.5 seconds. 4, 5, 6.5. There we are. Now this is pretty much due east to this road, where, no, it's not actually. Due east is not quite into the sun, it's between the road and the sun. And when is the equinox? I think the equinox is sometime this month, if I'm not mistaken. And then it will rise exactly in the east. And by the time the end of summer comes, the sun will be rising to the right-hand side of the road, believe it or not. Such is the movement of the heavenly bodies, Brian. I'll turn my radio up slightly so I can hear what's going on. Ah, there we are. The voice of Taxon clear in my ear. Right, so we're hoping that the lions perhaps did something on this road last night. Hopefully they didn't go to the left of it. We can't go there, obviously. That is Buffels Hook, and Buffels Hook is a collection of small private holdings that we are not allowed to traverse at this stage. So we're just going to go down here and check to see where the lions' tracks have gone. Now, I'm afraid, Louise, I'm really struggling to hear you. Ah, Linda. You saw a Birmingham boy at the Pan. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Linda. And I think, Lucy, you in South Bend in Indiana heard a lion calling far in the distance at some stage during the night. Good. Okay, well, that's good news. Perhaps the lion is still on Juma. That would be good. Along with the little cubbies. There, Brian, is not a lion, but a terrified duiker now running away. Shall we leave him? Yes, he doesn't want to be on camera. No, carry on. Now, it was quite far from here that they were seen, so we're just going to keep going along. Oh, there's something wrong with the radio this morning. Anyway, we'll sort it out, I heard nothing during the night. Hello, Annie Mash. You say that this is a mighty cool concept, and that despite the fact that there are lots of different live channels popping up in your YouTube feed, this is the best. Well, we think it's the best too, Annie Mash. So thank you very much for joining us, and keep joining us, and thank you for talking to us as we explore the African wilderness. And if you are perhaps a new viewer, this is obviously a live safari you're going on from the northeast corner of the world's most beautiful country, that is South Africa. And we're looking for lions, but we don't know where they are. We're part of, like I said, 8.5 million acres of land, 3.5 million hectares, which means there could be animals everywhere, or, well, equally possibly, there could be animals nowhere. But most likely there will be some animals somewhere, and hopefully those will include the great Nkuhuma pride, for whom we search. 5 lionesses, 8 cubs, and perhaps the male who was seen drinking at the Pan. Hello, Gregory in Michigan. You're wondering if we're always never allowed to go into Buffelshoek. No, the status doesn't change. You'll find the Sabi sand, which is about 60,000 hectares, or multiplied by 2.5 odd, Brian, about 160,000 acres, is a collection of private reserves, and well, there are lots of different landowners, and they've all got complicated traversing agreements with each other. There's a whole lot of politics involved, as inevitably there always is where human beings get involved. And so we don't traverse Buffelshoek at the moment. But if you come to Djuma and Vuyatela, which is that's where we operate, you can drive on to Buffelshoek with Taxon and Aubrey. They have traversing over Buffelshoek and Torchwood. And it's all about the landowners not wanting to kind of overcrowd their land. Now, this is where they were yesterday. So we shall search for tracks going across the northern boundary, and then we'll head towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is now a dust bowl, Buffelshoek Dust Bowl, and we'll make a decision from there. You see any lions down there, Brian? No, no lions down there at all. Right, let's just ease our way through this little drainage section and perhaps have a little bit of a listen to see if we can't hear the cubs going ow, 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 ow. So we'll just listen quietly for a second. I can hear an arrow-marked babbler going. I can also hear a green-backed Cameroptera going. Bzz, 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 bzz. While we listen to birds, most amazing sighting of a cordon bleu, did we not?
We did.
Brian, yesterday, a little blue waxbull sighting that knocking about in the leaf litter, and we got full frame pictures of these bearded woodpecker in the distance, green pigeon. That's not a very good green pigeon, is it, Brian?
Not really, no.
No.
Sorry. Oh, there we go, that's better.
That's much better. Right, no lions calling, let's carry on. Most importantly, no tracks going north, which is a good thing. Thank you, Cheryl. You say the equinox is on September 22nd. There are some lion tracks here, but they're old and not disappearing across the road, which is good. I see one worth showing you. I'll show you. Now, they were just in here yesterday, where Tristan sat with them. I will see. You can see the car tracks going in and out of this area. But you didn't see any lions, do you, Brian? No, none of them. Let's keep going. We're obviously going to stop for everything else as well, but lions will probably be the focus because we'd like to see them sort of hanging out in the golden morning light, as opposed to the bleached light of the midday. As opposed. You like that word, Brian? It's like white brown saffron. Some impala. Let's stop and have a look at them. There they are, Brian. Glistening in the new dawn. A delightful colour. Some elephant up ahead. Taxon has got tracks of the lions to this way to the south of us, so that's a good thing. So they definitely haven't crossed south. Tax, I'd like to come and give you a hand. I'm on Buffles cut line though. Where would you like me to check? I'll just get and ask Tax where he'd like us to have a look. Now, there's a specialized tooth, you know, that impala has. A loose tooth, as well as a long tongue and a yawn. The loose tooth is in the bottom jaw there, and what it does is it helps him to clean ticks. It's just slightly longer than the others, and just a little bit loose so that it bends forward. And it means that he can scrape ticks very effectively off his body. Parasites out here obviously are one of the major things that all the animals have to get over. It's a constant arms race between animals, their immune systems, and the immense number of parasites that choose to live on them. And it's the same goes for us, you know. You'd be astounded by the number of parasites and parasitoids that live in and on your body. It's not a good idea to think about it, really. Make you feel dirty.
Especially this early.
Yes, exactly. And in the background, another bird calling, the chin spot batis. Oh, it's a perfect morning. Right, let's go on. Let's see if we can see this elephant who's been breaking trees in front of us. Hello, Sandy in Canada. You say, did we ever have such an exciting drive that I can't sleep at night? Or did we just get used to it and kind of get a bit blasé about it all? No, I don't ever struggle to sleep at night as a result of sightings we've had, unless they've been absolutely terrifying. But no, we have the feeling I get after a spectacular drive is one of immense satisfaction, and it actually helps me to sleep because I feel, you know, we've done a good job and we've had a really, you know, you set out to find something and you've had a profoundly good time, and that helps me to sleep, Sandy. Nice question, that. I think this elephant has moved off north into Beefle's Hook, and all I heard was the cracking of branches. So he or she or they, I think, have gone. We'll just ease our way up here, see if we can't get a small glimpse. Amazing how easy it is for elephant to hide. You see them, Brian? Brian can see them. Ah, yes, shadow in the sticks. I'll just move up a little bit here and see if we can't get a better view. It's not going to be our best elephant sighting, is it, Brian? No. But at least you will be able to see him. There. Very nice. Monday morning elephant's ear. Eating, 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 eating. The inexorable chewing. That grey colour, again, like I say, very lovely subtle colour of this time of the year. So let's enjoy him for a little while. It is very tranquil indeed. Most tranquil. Right. Should we carry on, Brian? Because there's another elephant walking across the road. An enormous bull. Let's go and see him. He was giving that swagger as he walked across the road in front of us. That must swagger. Oh, and he's going to push that tree over. Naughty fellow. So we'll approach him with caution. That must swagger is just an indication they kind of, you know, like when a man is kind of posturing. That's what they do. And that's what he was doing there. Doesn't mean he's necessarily in must. Must, of course, their time of increased testosterone when they're looking for females to mate with. One of the only species where the male has to sort of be in heat as well, if you like. No, this chap's actually a little bit nervous of us, I think. He's not as big as I thought he was. He's got quite big tusks, but he's a bit of a youngster, so he's a little nervous. And so he's kind of swaggering away, saying, I'm not nervous of you, but I'm just going to go down here and see if there's something nice to eat. But you saw him swaggering with his head lolling from side to side. Like that. And now he's having a bit of a scratch. Let's go just down the road here. There's another road we can turn onto. There's a herd just off to the left. You can't really see. I'm not going to ask Brian to look at them, but they seem to be also coming this way. Ooh, it's quite nice. He's looking at us. I'm not sure what he's thinking about. He is streaming a little bit from his temporal gland, which indicates some kind of stress. Could be must, could be heat, could be the fight with his girlfriend. Hello, Snapple Attack. You want to know the oddest thing I've ever seen an elephant do is, well, probably what I'm seeing right now. I've got to think about that. What's the oddest thing I've ever seen an elephant do? I'll tell you the most amazing thing I've ever seen an elephant do is they learn very quickly about electric fences. And I once watched an elephant who was trying to get into the camp pick up a stick and hit the fence until it was down, and then step over it and into the camp. So he'd figured out that the wire was going to damage him, and that if he touched it, it would hurt him, but if he hit it with a stick, it wouldn't. And that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen an elephant do. Let's carry on around the corner here. Yeah, he's not waiting for anything now. He might pop out at Bivelshoek Dam, but there's no water there, so I'm not sure that he's going to. Let's carry on towards the dam. There he is. Hello, Brad. I think you're wondering if we get any, or if we're expecting any rain anytime soon. Brad, I don't think so for the next month or so. Brian reckons this... Oh, You're saying, would we intervene if we don't get any rain? We're already intervening, Brad. There are a number of pumped pans around the place. The pan around the front of Juma is pumped by a borehole. The one in front of the Gallagher camp, which is also just near where we operate, is also pumped. There are a number of dams all over Buffelshoek. Most of them, some of them are pumped, and then there's some in Torchwood. There's masses of water around for those who want to drink it, not so much for those who want to live in it, for example the hippo, but no, there's already quite a lot of intervention. Now, we're arriving at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm always expectant when I get here, but I don't think there's going to be anything here today given the lack of water. There is still moisture under the surface, as evidenced by the fact that Jean-Ray got himself stuck in the mud the other day. Rookie error. That looks like it's dry, but it really isn't. There's a lot of squidging and squodging you can do in there, and I'm really surprised that nothing has got caught in it. Because the last time it dried out, in December last year, many animals got caught in it, trying to get something to drink, and they sunk into it. Now they'd be safe, they wouldn't get stuck in it now. But just before it got to this sort of stage. But now I think it's, I mean, those sort of cracks and things are not steady. I wouldn't like to try and walk across them. But the water is gone. The drinking water in the mud that elephants can toss on themselves is also gone. Kirsten says that they are very steady. Well, Brian, I don't believe her, do you?
No.
I think she's talking nonsense. Let's go and have a look. It's going to be difficult to get across here, though, isn't it? This is Sisyphus. This has got Aoi written all over it. Thank you, Brian. Aoi! Yes, I think up might be easier. Okay, I'm through. You'll tell me about the audio, will you? Yes. Just make sure there aren't any lions around. Well, it's certainly steady here.
Oh, audio's fading in and out.
Steady here.
No good.
No good.
Oh, there we go.
I take it back, Kirsten. Any sound?
Yeah, I've got sound.
It's completely steady. I'm not sure how Jean-Ray managed to fall into this. Right. There we are then. It's completely solid and steady. Take it back. Just look behind you, Brian. Is that elephant coming out?
Not yet, no.
I think that car, and we'll continue our search for the lions. You'll be amazed how little Sisyphus it takes to catch a man.
Oh, wonderful.
Well done. And that elephant is coming this way. I can just hear him. put my sound back in. I think I muted myself. Am I back?
No, you're muted now.
Am I muted?
Yeah.
Now?
Now you're good.
Okay, we're in. Sorry everybody. Bit awkward. Let's carry on. There. Yes. Thank you for the leggies. It's still a little bit chilly. Ah, James Richard, you say the thorns are going to put a tear in my snazzy new shorts. Well, they might, but you know, when you're a rough and ready ranger like me, well, a tear in your shorts is an addition to your fashion. Here he comes. Hello, Mr. Elephant. Swagger boy. There he is, coming across the dam wall. Oh, he doesn't know what to do. He's confused because we've stopped. William, that's an interesting question. You say, all the way from Oregon, because of where the elephant's eyes are set, does it have a blind spot at all? Now, I'm led to believe, and I have not tried this, that there is a blind spot actually, and it's right to the side. I know you're probably thinking of a blind spot in front of the elephant. Seems to be one just behind. Apparently you can walk up to an elephant if it doesn't move by walking straight at its sort of flank. If you come straight from a direct sort of perpendicular angle to its flank, you can actually walk up to it and touch it. I wouldn't recommend it, of course, because should the elephant turn its head, it is definitely going to see you. But I've heard stories of people doing exactly that. And fairly reliable stories. This guy's got he's either swaggering or he's got a sore ear. You see how he just keeps kind of shaking his head there? And he's now definitely watching us, trying to decide if we're irritating him or not. Let's see where he goes and how he reacts to us. I think he'll probably just press on. You can hear the white-browed scrub robins all over the place, down into the valley of the Wati. He's definitely very frustrated or irritated. It's not usual to see them walking with that kind of head shake. Well, if he finds the Nkuhuma pride, he'll certainly let us know about it by going good, very nice sighting, Brian, well done. Ooh. Wait. Hello, new viewer, sounds like Seal Gaming, if that is your name. You want to know Seal Gaming, you're a new viewer. It's lovely to have you with us. Brian, would you like to smell something delicious? The flowers of the knobthorn tree, everybody. Very lovely. You want to know what the first thing I'd do if an elephant charged us was? Well, I would hide under the dashboard, I think. That's quite a safe spot there, don't you think, Brian? Just under there in the footwell. Brian is too tall to do that, of course, so he'd have to get off and run. No, Seal Gaming, I'm being entirely facetious. The best thing to do would be to assess whether he was being serious or not being serious. Now, that brings up the sticky subject of what... Here are some lion tracks. It brings up the sticky subject of what might be described as a mock charge. Now, this is a term that I don't like to use at all. I'm just going to assess whether these tracks are fresh. But I don't think they're very fresh. And someone's just found a line. I will get back to you right now. It's on North Rock Road, which is in Torchwood. Right, so what you do is an elephant will sometimes sort of run at you and open its ears, and people describe that as a mock charge. It's not a mock charge, it's a warning. He's saying, when I come toward, I'm uncomfortable with you, you need to go away and leave me alone now. And that's what an elephant is telling you when it does something like that. So once they start to do that, normally if you move away and you increase the space between you and them, then they're not going to charge. If it does turn into a full charge, and we actually had one the other day, very unusually here, and it was on Cheetah Plains, you need to be in a position where you can drive away quickly. Some will tell you need to stop and bang on the door and shout and clap and make a big noise. That, to my mind, is an exceptionally stupid thing to do because, well, if you can get away in a car, then why not just increase the speed and deflect the conflict? So that would be my approach, would be to drive away. If you get into a situation where you can't drive away, say you've backed up into some bushes or something and the elephant's approaching you from the front, well, then the best thing is to make a big noise and shout and see if you can't make it stop, and then drive off. Now, this is one male lion that's come down this road, everybody. It don't look fresh to me, and one male lion has been found on Torchwood, which we can't go to. It's just to the east of here. Anyway, we might find something else. The rest of them, pride, might be around here somewhere. Yeah, just the one male. Hello Tim, you want to know how many lions we're looking for? Well, like I mentioned this morning, the ideal thing we were looking for is probably the 5 lionesses of the Nkuhumas and the 8 cubs, and maybe the male that's been with them. I think he's been sort of trying to convince Amber Eyes that she should allow him to consort with her. Yeah. He's come from somewhere around here. I wonder if he isn't the same male that has been around there. And if he hasn't turned around and gone back again. Anyway, we'll see. Time will tell. Let's move a little bit faster. Just cover a bit more ground before it gets too light and bright and warm and the lions go completely to sleep, which they do like to do, of course. Disturbingly much. Now, they've been on the tracks. I think that male may have been on the tracks of these buffalo. There's a buffalo or two been knocking about here. Just a couple of buffalo bulls. We'll just see around the next corner. They love this next junction. They tend to use it as a bit of a focal point when they're deciding to either go on to Torchwood to the east of us or down to the south of Juma. Some elephant tracks. No elephants at this stage. At least we've had some elephants, Brian. Many. Right, we'll stop at the drain at the junction here and just switch off and have a listen. ubiquitous calling of the white-browed scrub robin. Oh, there he is. He's just on the edge of that silver cluster leaf tree. Can you see him there, Brian? You see the dead stump? The tree behind? He's just on the edge there, on the right-hand side of the tree. He's in picture now. Go down a little. He's there. Have you got him? No. Oh, down a bit. Go down a bit. There. Well spotted. It is the day of the white-browed scrub robin, everybody. You won't get a picture like that every day. Look at him fanning his tail. Let's try and imitate him. He's doing a drongo call. That at the end. He calms down, and then if I do it again, he'll kind of puff his chest out. So cool. Look at him displaying there and relieving himself. And as Louise says, he looks like a badminton shuttlecock. He does rather, doesn't he? There's just a little bit of imitation that he's doing there. Sounds like a crombeck, that brrr at the end. That fanning tail is very spectacular. I don't think I've seen that before. Now on the ground. Now we were asked and have been asked about the returnees coming back to breed here at Djuma, and Jamie has found just that.
The wonderful thing about spring being in the air is it means the return of some very familiar faces. In this case, our pale morph Wahlberg's eagles have returned from their inter-African migratory flight right back to the exact same position that they always occupy year after year. And what's amazing about this particular pair is that both of them are pale morph Wahlberg's eagles, which sort of stands to reason that their next set of chicks will most likely be a pale morph Wahlberg combination. It's sort of roughly 5 to 10% of Wahlberg's eagles have this pale, almost sort of light grey colouring to them. There you go, there's the nest site that they use. Isn't that incredible? Year after year after year, they return to exactly the same spot. The same pair to the same nest, despite their hundreds of miles that they travel each and every single year. This could be the male or the female. It's hard to tell unless you've got them right up next to each other. The female, of course, is the larger of the two in almost all cases with birds of prey. I'm going to suggest that this is the female sitting in the nest, that she might have decided to start sort of sorting it out, might have deteriorated in her absence from it. Isn't she beautiful? Yes, you, with your little crest sticking up at the top. So for those of you who are budding birders and learning the different eagles, the Wahlbergs have a very slight crest to the top of their head. They're a small eagle, a tiny little eagle, in comparison to something like a tawny or, say, a steppe eagle. We might be seeing our steppe eagles at some point in the future. But the Wahlbergs are usually one of our earliest returnees. And it is so lovely to see them once again on a road called Wahlberg's Road, because, as you know, that's where the nest is, hence the name Wahlberg's Road. Wahlberg's, I believe, was a Swedish, I think he was Swedish, sounds Swedish biologist. That's where the name Wahlberg's eagle comes from. I'm sure Brent will be able to tell us more when he returns from his birthday reading of the book of Latin names that I gave him for his birthday. They really are lovely. The standard, duck and cover. Just a very brief mobbing by a fork-tailed drongo who that was so half-hearted. It was just a little sort of semi-dive at the Wahlbergs. Not really committed to anything, it was more just a little for the show of it, or a statement. Yes, exactly, Wahlbergs. It was very rude. There you go, you can see the crest that I was talking about, and the lovely pale colour. Well, this one's looking a little bit dirty. I don't know if it's the light. They are, of course, mottled in the front, but this one looks a little bit like it could do with some cleaning. Dark brown eyes. For those of you learning your different birds, Wahlbergs have dark eyes. All of them have dark eyes, including these pale morphs. You also get a dark morph Wahlberg's eagle, which, as the name suggests, funnily enough, is the opposite of a pale morph Wahlberg's eagle, just in case that needed any clarification. There's a pair of them. There's one pale morph and one dark morph that used to nest at Red Dam, so hopefully they will decide to return this year as well. So a lovely surprise. We've seen these guys mating before, and hopefully we'll be able to watch them raise their chicks. Lovely question coming through from Michael, which was, how common is it to have sort of different color morphs in a pair, and how long do they live? I don't know how long they live. Sorry, just to put that out there, I was going to suggest somewhere into their teens. Generally, birds of prey are very, very long-lived animals, possibly even up to their 20s. Those of you who perhaps have a better idea as to how long a Wahlberg's eagle might live, I'd love to hear if you've got an answer to that. In terms of the morph coloration, it can be, the combination is pretty much endless. It's just the fact that there's about, as I said, 5 to 10%, probably a little bit higher in this area, so closer to 10% pale morph, and then, he's off. Early morning breakfast. And, that was a brave decision. Well done, Chandra. I don't know. Did it catch something? I mean, because that was bizarre. That was like was it caught? Oh, I think it has. It has. Oh no, it's nest building. All right. Well, that explains that very peculiar decision to go diving into a guarri bush. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. How magic is that? Nest material gathering. I wondered why it went and chose the worst possible bush that was never going to properly support its weight. That was very, very cool. So it's like what we saw the shikras doing the other day, actually physically breaking off the branches and laying them on the nest. Rather than, our little weaver species or anything like that, they often just gather stuff off the ground, although weavers do strip away bits of palm leaf and so on. But these big birds of prey have got the strength and the dexterity to physically gather it. That's so interesting, because I've never seen the inside of a Wahlberg's nest. And clearly they utilize things like that guarri branch that it just flew past with as a nice soft padding. Because if you look at that nest, it's that messy bundle of thorny sticks. It doesn't look very comfortable. Sarah, I agree. I was just thinking the exact same thing watching them line their nest, that a nest cam would be absolutely lovely. They are such gorgeous birds. We don't think, if I remember correctly, we don't think that they were successful last year in terms of raising a brood. We never saw a juvenile or even little heads poking themselves over the top of the nest. No, don't quite know why they weren't successful, but a nest cam would be lovely. And we're going back again. Please go back into the guari bush. That was hilarious. It's going, it's going, it's going. Oh, yes! That's awesome. That was a much better landing. Oh, I hope you're getting some amazing screenshots, because this is so awesome. I wish I had a camera. Look what you got, you clever thing. Sorry, Michael, I realized I didn't actually finish answering your question properly. But this is just too fascinating for words. Oh, Chandra, awesome. How amazing, the skill of our cameraman, just by the way. Well done. That one's a bit smaller than the last one you got. I think your mate's going to be a bit disappointed. You set the standards a bit too high the first time round. Maybe it's finishing touches. I suppose it takes all kinds sizes of guari branch to make a nest. Whoop. Run, run, run. Trying to figure out a way to get it onto the nest. A very valid point from Susan, something that we often forget, or I often forget, I shouldn't say we, I often forget, is that it's very difficult to get a sense of scale in terms of the size of these birds. Oh, sorry, just look at the way it's walking along. What now? Your nest is that way. Go on. Go back. I'm loving this. So Susan, very good point. We often sort of don't give you a sense of scale. I'm looking for an exact size so that I can give you an exact size. But I'm trying to think of a... Oh, this is perfect. I'm trying to think of a nice comparative thing. For some reason, my brain never works in terms of size comparisons, and I end up with the most bizarre thoughts going through my head. They're tiny. So I've got, I mean, in terms of rough exact height, you're looking at about 60 centimeters, which is, what is that? That's about roughly 25 inches in terms of height. No, that's not right. No, that is right. It's close to. So roughly 25 inches in height. I'll give you an indication with my hand that they're about as long as my forearm, give or take. Look at that. Putting them in the nest. It's awesome. No, so roughly from my elbow to the tip of my fingers is about the size, maybe a little bit less. But, you know, no, that'd be about right. It's about as tall as they are. In wingspan, you're probably looking at just over a meter, whereas a lot of our eagles go right up over 2 meters in terms of their entire wing structure, and they're about double the height. So they are one of the smallest eagle species that we get. This is such a beautiful scene that we've been watching. I really enjoyed that. Michael, sorry, just to finish off your question, because I didn't quite. They don't, as far as I know, they don't show a preference for a morph that is the same as them, if that makes sense. So a pale morph will not favor a pale morph. It's just they do mate for life. They come together for the breeding season with the same mate that they had the season before. So they are monogamous. But as far as I know, the morph doesn't show any preference for the same one. A very square tail for that eagle. Back again! Oh, I got overexcited there. It's a lovely, lovely point coming through from Sandy in Canada. We very often talk about bald eagles and sort of the way that they compare to our eagle species. And apparently, bald eagles, according to Sandy, take a cedar branch and put it in their nest each and every day to basically keep the nest smelling fresh and clean, like having one of those air freshener thingies, like one of those car air fresheners dangling from your rearview mirror. Quarry bushes, as far as I know, don't have any scent, but, well, nothing particularly vibrant or clean smelling. They just smell like tree to me. But that is a possibility. I wouldn't put it past certain bird species to know which branches to put in. I think they're taking the quarry bushes because they're dense, they're green at the moment, and they're quite relatively soft, and there's no thorns. So I think that's why they're choosing those. But I like the idea of basically the car air freshener. I'm taking a break from nest building now, enjoying the morning sunlight. The nice thing, of course, about these live safaris is that now that they're back, we can pop past this Wahlberg's eagle nest whenever we happen to be in the area and see how they're doing and keep our fingers crossed that they'll be more successful than they were last year. Beautifully done. Fluffing up their feathers, making sure all is in good order, having a bit of a preen. And that's essential, of course, because they are so reliant on their feathers in terms of flight. And speaking of flight and birds of prey, let's jump over to James, who has probably one of the most striking of them all.
Well, it's striking at a relatively close distance, I suppose. This chap is right in the middle of a block, and this pair of Battalier eagles lives around here. We're on Leadwood Road, which is to the southern and eastern portions of Djuma, and this pair of Battalier likes to live around here. Now, I know one of you was quite interested in the size of a Wahlberg's eagle, about 2 feet for a big one. This one is supposed to be about 10 centimeters or 4 inches taller than a Wahlberg's eagle. So that gives you a comparison to the bird you were looking at versus this one, particularly now. A bit more colorful, and also not, at least it is resident, it is not a migrant bird. So they live around here as a monogamous pair. I think. Can you hear that? I think that's one of the youngsters calling. Because normally their call is Brian, would you like to do it?
I don't even know how they sound normally.
With that noise you made. It is, that is not exactly inaccurate.
Okay.
It's slightly shorter. Is the exactly.
Right.
You can often hear them flying around in the air, and then they go, "Ah!" The bird book describes it as ka-ka-ka-ag. Hello, Michael. Quite interesting question from you. You want to know, as with many of the eagles, is the female bigger than the male? And in this case, I don't believe that to be the case. It might be very slightly, but not as obviously so as with the true eagles. And you say, will they abandon their nests if they are attacked, or not attacked, if they're perhaps robbed by human beings, or if they come into contact with human beings? I imagine there might be incidences where they would, but I don't know for sure. I don't know of anybody who's actually been up to a Wahlberg's eagle's nest, at least a Battalier's nest. I've come across abandoned Wahlberg's nests before, and have actually rescued a Wahlberg's chick fledgling that couldn't fly yet, and eventually it flew off and became a wild Wahlberg's. But a Battalier, I don't know. It's a nice question. And as you say, with the bald eagle, we know that, well, and I think with a number of bird species that happens, but I do think that it's less common than we think it is. For example, sorry, just look here. They, for example, the ground hornbills, people go and take their eggs out, the second egg, because they lay 2 eggs and one of them will always die, so they go and kidnap those out of the nests, and that doesn't result in any kind of negative effect for the remaining egg. And I know that there are a few different bird species that they do that with. Here are some impalas. There we have. We're just listening here for tracks of lions. I'm just going to get on the radio quick. Jamie, I didn't have any tracks. I did Drakensberg Road. There's one male that walked along there, but I haven't had any tracks with the rest of the pride. I'm now on Leadwood. Yeah. It doesn't sound like the Nkuhuma pride has crossed out of the reserve, which is good news. So we'll start moving slightly quicker from where we are now. It does also sound a little bit like they're in that rather nasty block south of Buffelshoek Dam. Hello Gigi, you are wondering about how long it took me to learn to identify animal tracks. Well, it depends entirely on the animal track and how distinct it is. So Gigi, after somebody pointed out a very obvious lion track to me only once, well then I could identify them. But that's not the real trick. It's not hard to do that. Well, it's much harder with the antelope because they're very slightly different shapes from each other. But if they're in an obvious substrate, so some good sort of clay, dry clay, you'll be able to see them very easily. It's when they're more obscure and when they have been walked over, or it's only a partial track because something's rubbed over one, or they've walked over rock, that's when it becomes difficult. And that is a continuous learning process. But were you to come here, for example, and I were to show you a hyena track and a leopard track and a lion track walking along this road, it would be very clear and distinct, and it wouldn't be hard for you to recognize them again the next time you saw them. Now I'll just try and find you some examples. And Shelby, a nice question from you, and I don't really know the answer, but to say that I don't think so. You say, do animals ever follow each other's tracks by following the tracks, and then do prey catch their prey by following the tracks? I don't think so, no. I think they do it with smell, and my reason for saying that is, I mean, if you can teach a bloodhound to follow the trail of a human being or an animal and they're not looking for tracks, it's done purely on smell. So I think animals, us especially, do leave a scent, and I know that if an elephant wants to come and find you, it will follow you track for track, but on your smell. They don't look, they use their trunks to smell where you've been. So I think it's done largely on smell. There aren't any obvious tracks for me to show you here, Gigi, that will stand out. But if I find one, you'll see exactly what I mean. Here we go. There's a whole little group of them there. Oh no, that really is so irritating. One is tempted to just pull. My wire got stuck, everyone. It's now attached. Okay. I'm alright, Brian. Okay. It's over. Alright, Gigi. If you look over here, can you see here, Brian? That is very obviously a zebra's track. It looks just like a horse track. It's just the round toe. Now, you'd never mistake that. Now that I've taught you that, if you walked along a road like that and saw that, you'd know that it was a zebra. But, however, if you saw that, let's say this was a piece of rock over here. If you just saw that, you might be a little bit more confused by it. But if you're an experienced tracker, then you'd know that that was a zebra that had just been partially obscured. Likewise, if you saw this one here, you can see what I'm looking at, Brian? There are two tracks here. One of them is a zebra underneath here, and walking on top of the zebra is a hyena track. and you can see the hyena's toes there, and you might be able to see the claw marks where I've made the claw marks there, and that very distinctly kidney-shaped hind pad. So that, if you didn't know what you were looking at, would be a little bit more difficult. You might recognize the hyena track, but you probably wouldn't recognize that it had stood on a zebra unless you were relatively experienced. So it's an almost impossible question to ask or to answer, to say how long does it take you to identify tracks. So it really does matter how distinct they are, and those particular ones were pretty distinct, but it can be very difficult indeed, especially if you're trying to follow tracks, for example, through a block. On a road it's not too much of a problem, but the really good trackers will follow something as light of foot as a leopard through an area like this and be able to see where it walks. I cannot do that. I have tried many times. Alright, we're going to continue trying to find where these lions have gone, because nobody has found tracks of the cubs and the rest of the pride. While we do that, I think Jamie's on the similar sort of mission. Let's go and find out from her firsthand.
I just thought I'd give James the odd hand, since we were in the area, and I'm not going to manage to get to Cheetah Plains this morning, as was my plan, but we had to do some behind-the-scenes filming. But that's okay. I'll do it this afternoon for the sunset safari. So I thought, well, since I was here, I'd just have a quick poke my nose around and see whether or not they haven't popped out on this road, which they have not. It looks as though most of them have gone towards Torchwood, but we don't know for certain that all of them have. And we've got a lovely young waterbuck bull. I say he's young. His horns have not yet reached their full size. Still slightly inward facing, almost, but he's got a little bit of growing to do yet. And as Jean-Andre pointed out when we pulled up, you can actually smell him quite clearly on this nice and still morning. They carry a very distinctive, as I think James described it, as goat smell. Oh no, that was the civet dung. I can't remember how James described it. He had a brilliant description though. Beautiful. Just enjoying basking in the morning sunlight. Perhaps he knows where the lions are, because they definitely walked along here at some point. Where are you? That was it. The smoky old saddle. That was the description that James provided. Try and get this pearl-spotted owlet to come out. It's somewhere close here. Let's just go a little further forward. And James and myself have been playing Call to the Birds this morning, with his white-browed scrub robin. Me with a tiny little owl called a pearl-spotted owlet that is somewhere here. I suspect he's in that marula tree at the back, or somewhere in that general vicinity. Nope, not today. No luck today. Pearl-spotted owlet sitting somewhere in the tree going, "Go away, I'm sleeping. It's bedtime now." Shonda, if you've spotted it, I will be so impressed with you. No way. No way. Seriously impressed with Chandra right now. That's incredible. Okay, now I see him. Jeepers, straight into the sun. Well, everybody, wherever you are around the world, I'd like you all to break into a stupendous applause for Chandra, who's spotted one of the smallest of the owl species. And then, well, no, I mean, it flew away. That's not so much your fault. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. That was an amazing spot because it was straight into the sun as well. So there you go. I know it wasn't the best view that we've ever had, but it was a lovely little owl species called a pearl-spotted owlet. Well done, Gendre. And we seem to be on something of a birding mission unintentionally this morning. Let's go to James and his kingfisher.
There be a brown-hooded kingfisher, everybody. Gorgeous bird. And of course reminding us of the woodland kingfisher that shall return shortly. If you're ever wondering whether you're looking at a woodland or brown-hooded kingfisher, the woodland, slightly cleaner looking, is the most obvious sort of feature. The blue is less green than that particular blue, and the beak is red on top and black on the bottom. But they don't have that kind of brown, dirty looking featheration on top plumage. Featheration I don't think is a word. In fact, I'm 90% sure it isn't a word. Featheration. The they don't have the dirty plumage on their heads and underneath their wings there. They're much cleaner looking featheration than this bird. Right. Monique, you are saying in London, I'm not sure if you're watching, I think it's a bit early, I think you only watch in the afternoons, but Monique, you were describing your walk yesterday along the River Mole, and the fact that you had seen 3 kingfishers there. Well, this is the one that we see most commonly over here now, on account of the fact that there's no water for the pied kingfishers and malachite kingfishers to dive into. Pygmy kingfishers should be around soon. Woodland, well, not just for the next month or so. And striped, there was a report of a striped kingfisher the other day. Nemo, you're wondering when the woodland will return. I don't think for some time. Certainly they only came back on the 16th of November last year. So don't be looking around for them too expectantly. But it might be different this year. Oh, and Joey in Australia, you're wondering about when it is that the cuckoos are going to come back. It could be fairly soon that they come back, 1 or 2 of them. The first one I heard last year was the black cuckoo, and he makes that, "I'm so sad, I'm so sad." Brent saw a Birchall's cuckoo the other day, which of course is not to be confused with a cuckoo, Louise. Not migratory, nor a cuckoo. Let us look into the boughs of this very pretty jackalberry tree and just see what's eating the fruits. I think its fruiting is probably about to cease. It has been fruiting for some time. But again, it's very much a birdie kind of safari day today. Some grey go-away birds hopping about up there, enjoying the fruit. The sort of subtle, no, not so subtle, but fading smell of baboon dung in the air, because the baboons have been feeding around here, and where a baboon has been, he has normally left his mark in the form of a fairly smelly, steaming brown pile. I'm astounded at their design and how they're able to actually do anything in a tree like that without falling out. Brad, you want to know if we get ground hornbills at Djuma? We do indeed, Brad. We had one this morning, or 2 or 3 of them calling just before we came live. And we went up that first road where you first saw us today. I thought they were around there somewhere. So yes, we do get them, Brad. But they're not common, obviously. You probably know that they're highly endangered, and we don't get many of them here, but they are around. Righty, let's just continue up the riverbed. I think Jamie has got a few tracks of that pride, so that's good. We'll head back towards her. Dark Knight, you're wondering, appropriately for your moniker, you're saying, do some of the kingfishers present some sort of a bad omen to the local people? No, not that I know of. I think kingfishers are not considered a bad omen. Owls are the birds most often thought of as bad omens, and vultures. Owls and vultures, they are the most commonly thought of as having sort of spiritual or foresight. Owls, I guess, because they fly around at night, and vultures because they feed on the dead, and therefore they're supposed to be able to predict and see into the future. And crows, not so much here, no. But he's probably, I mean, anything that goes over your head going, ah, ah, is, well, it's just scary, frankly. Now, there are lots of kingfishers and things in here, maybe a leopard or two, possibly just some trees. Now, I found no tracks of the whole pride, and I think Jamie may have some there on Central Road, and so we'll go and give her a bit of a hand down there. We've done kind of a big loop around where they were, but nothing since then. Alright, while we head along the river, let's go and find out from her first hand what's happening with those tracks.
We might actually even bump into James at this point on our way towards the Mulwati. I don't really want to be in the Mulwati, I want to be on the other side of it, but I have to do a funny little loop in order to get around and back onto Inyala Road south. It looks as though, look, we've got to stop now making assumptions with female leopard tracks, because we've had Mchila hanging out around the Vuyatela Dam, the granddaughter of Saleheshe. So it may well not be Karula's tracks that I've found. I found a female leopard's tracks heading towards Inyala Road South. It is one of Karula's favourite areas. It's where she gave birth to those cubs of hers, her current set of cubs, between Batalia and Inyala Road South, which is exactly where those leopard tracks are heading. And we're just going to do a quick nip through the Mulwati. We'll leave the Mulwati to James so he can do a bit of a river cruise. You never know, he might encounter her somewhere along the way as well. And we're going to make our way to Inyala Road South. Definitely one of my favourite places on this reserve. Obviously this morning we started out by doing the Jandra and myself started out doing the behind the scenes filming. Now typically every single work cycle that Jandre works, we have a bet going as to whether or not he will make it out the other side uninjured, which sounds terrible. Emerald spotted wood dove. Chandra is immediately drawing attention away from this conversation. Very well, very well. I shall not be distracted though. I will, briefly, because they are so beautiful. Don't go down that way, stay this side. Look how beautiful the green is on those wings. And that is an emerald spotted wood dove, and it's just vanished. Come back. Come back. I don't know if it's gone down into the drainage line itself. Let me go backwards a little bit. It was so beautiful in this morning light, that incandescent sheen. No. It has dipped below where we can see it. Oh, coming back. No. Come on, little bird. I did see that head peek out. This way, the seeds are this way. Come this way. There we go. An emerald spotted wood dove, supposedly listening to the entire call. It's meant to be saying, I'm sad, 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 sad. And it's meant to be very bad luck to listen to the whole call, because this dove is so sad. It is not, of course, bad luck at all. It's a beautiful little bird with, and you can see why it's called the emerald spotted wood dove. There is also a blue spotted wood dove, which looks essentially identical, just that the spots, as you may have guessed, kind of like what we were talking about with dark and pale morph, The spots are just blue instead of green.
Okay.
They are quite lovely. They leave their tracks all the way across the road. Lovely. Well, Chandra did manage to distract us completely from what we were chatting about before, and as it happens, James has got a further distraction in the form of a very large grey thing.
Not a hippopotamus, is it, Brian? It's got a long nose, indicating that it is a member of the Proboscidae family, and the only member of the Proboscidae family here. Ergo, it must be an elephant. Young elephant bull, eating what is known as the splendid thorn, a fairly uncommon acacia tree here, Acacia robusta. Which he is having for his splendid breakfast, Brian. There's a bit of a herd to the right-hand side of us, but they're going into some fairly thick stuff now. And in the background, you may have heard another sort of unusual-ish kind of a call, and that is the call of the black-collared barbet going "Tupatli, tupatli, 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 tupatli." Not a migrant, but now starting to sing again as we go towards the breeding season. Justin, you want to know what the hardest bird call to imitate is? That's an interesting one. I suppose it would be something, well, some of the robins, they've got some very complicated calls. What do you think, Brian? Some of the owls. That's a really good question, Justin. I mean, there are lots I can't do. You know what it is? I think it's probably, Louise, I was thinking the similar sort of thing. She's saying fiery neck nightjar, which says, "Good Lord, deliver us." That is difficult. I think also some of the owls are quite difficult, the barred owl, but the francolins as well. The francolins are quite difficult. We don't really have a voice that can do them. I'm going to sneak forward because there's another one just off to the right-hand side. I don't want to give this young bull a fright. He is a young bull. Always just hanging out on the fringes of the herd. Hello, Dizzy Leo. You're wondering about the age of an elephant and how you can tell their ages. Sorry, fellow, I didn't mean to give you a fright. Dizzy Leo, you can tell the age of an elephant only from its size and from experience. You need to have a bit of aging them because it's not obvious. So the most obvious thing is when they're, say, less than a year old, they're able to walk under their mother's belly, so that's the first one. Then their tusks erupt between 2 and 2.5 years, depending on whether they're bulls or cows. But after that, it really just is experience and sort of, either knowing them personally or spending time with somebody who knows elephants well. And so this one, I would say, is probably just under 15 or 16 years old. And I got to tell you, not looking in very good condition. And I hope for the sake of the elephants that we do have some rain fairly soon. Because these guys are struggling a little bit now. But it is a beautiful, beautiful shot there that Brian has of his yellowing teeth. I don't think he brushed them last night. Do you, Brian? And the tusk, just to remind you, I know most of you know this, but a tusk is the incisor tooth. And for our younger viewers, there's the front two teeth. And of course, very important to many animals, rodents especially, that most obviously have the very long front teeth. But in an elephant, they grow out from the sort of nasal sinus passages, that's where the roots are, and then they kind of twist and come out of the top lip. If you've ever seen an elephant's skull, it's actually quite fascinating. Hello Shelley, good one from you about ivory and rhino horn. You say if a rhino or an elephant dies of natural causes, what happens to the ivory? I think most of the ivory that is around this place is hidden. I think it is probably under bushes and in the sand, and it has probably just never been found. But if it is found, it's put into a stockpile. It's taken away, put into a safe, and put into a stockpile, and labelled and registered. And using those tusks extremely skillfully. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm just keeping an eye out to the right-hand side because there are a few others. And that foot with its big, thick callus underneath. And little toenails, look at that. You need a bit of a pedi there, Brian.
Looks like he stubbed his toe.
He does look like he stubbed his toe. Not nice to stub your toe, is it, Brian? No. When you do it and you look down knowing that you're going to see a piece of skin flapping off there and blood welling, I remember it well as a child, being deeply, deeply upset by the whole process. A stubbed toe. And here, there's a big cow there coming towards us. Well, she's not coming towards us, Brian. Once you've finished artistically framing the rumpled and yellowing grey skin of that elephant, there's a very large cow off to the right-hand side. And a very nice way to tell that she is a cow, of course, is the fact that she has that very square head, and you can see that even in silhouette, you can see it. You see the very square front to her forehead, indicating that she is very obviously a lady. Hello, Dark Knight. You're wondering if the legends are true that elephants are able to remember people forever. Dark Knight, I don't know for sure. We do know that they have a very good memory for waterholes and grazing lands. They have a good memory for each other, and certainly it would seem from people I've spoken to who have worked, by hand with elephants, that they do have a very good memory of people. Would this elephant that we've been looking at now remember me tomorrow as an individual or just as another vehicle? I don't know. But I will tell you that elephants have a relatively consistent reaction to people. And so, some people the elephants just don't like. Some people elephants do like. And I think it's very much their ability to recognize some kind of energy in you. I don't know how they do it. But I think that does happen, and therefore I would say that they probably can pick up on who you are. Whoop, whoop. You can hear the hoopoo in the background. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh, it is the most gorgeous morning, everyone. It just is so peaceful. And although we haven't found lions all over the place and leopards, it has been the most peaceful morning. Especially as we sit here now with the ultimate in peaceful animals. When they're feeling peaceful, of course, Brian. If they're not, then they're utterly unpeaceful.
Quite terrifying.
Yes, indeed. But to be sitting this distance, probably, well, I don't know, 20 meters, 15 meters or so, 50 feet from an elephant like this is just, I mean, what a privilege. Well, while we do that, Jamie has got a small grey antelope to show you, so let's go and have a look there.
It's very unusual for us to get a really nice Dacre sighting, and this appears to be one such example of one actually quite skinny little grey Dacre. She's not in the best condition, but still managing to eke out a little bit of a living, so to speak, with whatever shoots and leaves she can find. Usually we see a Dacre disappearing off. We see their backsides as they bounce off into the direction of the bush. But this little one is a bit more relaxed around vehicles. And she's a female, she doesn't have any horns, but she does have that lovely mohawk. In this case it looks more like a top ponytail sticking out the top of her head. Oh my goodness, Sandy, you gave me such a fright. Oh, I had my radio turned up far too loud. I got such a fright. Sorry. I was leaning down like this to look into the monitor. Okay, I don't know why that gave me such a fright. I think it was just the explosion of sound next to my ear. But it's alright, we're all under control. The Dacres disappeared, as they do. Phew! Right. I'm going to wait for my heart rate to recover. I don't quite know why I had such a dramatic and violent reaction to that sound, but I did. But while we've been driving along, I remain convinced that I smelt leopard urine on the corner where we went through towards Nyala Road South. Jandre can't smell it, but that's because Jandre says he might have a slightly blocked nose. I'm sure I can smell it, but I cannot. The bizarre thing is I cannot find a single track since the ones I saw on Battalier heading in that direction that would give me any indication that a leopard walked past there at all. So I'm starting to feel as though I'm going slightly mad. Now, a leopard has a very, very distinctive, or the smell of leopard urine has a very distinctive scent. It is meant to smell like buttered popcorn. I've always disagreed with that, but I have to say over the last few weeks I'm starting to, I don't know whether something switched in my brain and I'm associating that smell with buttered popcorn more and more. It is starting to smell like buttered popcorn. Seems like a bizarre thing to reference, but that is what it is. Like, I swear I smell a leopard, but if it's in Chile, she might be doing the same thing that she did to James the other day, which is get up and run and then relax and sit down. And I was chatting to Tristan yesterday. He said that she's always done that. When you see her, she gets up and sprints away, and then you give her a few moments, and then she settles down, and it's not that she's not relaxed, it's just her personality, it's just her way of things. She's not afraid of vehicles. She just has a way of reacting to them that's slightly different to the leopards that we get to see on a regular basis. Speaking of which, on the subject of our spotted cats, Tingana, Shadow and Karula are all together once again in the same sighting. So similar to what we experienced the other day, Tingana is still mating with Shadow and Karula's wandering along growling and salivating and being just generally annoyed with the whole situation. Now, they may well be, sounds like, on their way towards Djuma, which is exciting for either this morning or this afternoon. And on the subject of our bigger cats and the different personalities, we've got a question about the different different leopard and lion skin tones or fur tones. And Desiree in Colorado, lovely to have you on board. A newer viewer for us, or a name that I haven't heard at least. I think you're a newish viewer. Now you wanted to know about whether or not there are any white lions in the area or strawberry leopards. So the strawberry leopards, similar to the leucistic style of the white lions. You are correct. There was a strawberry leopard recorded in South Africa. Of course, Tara Puri, who used to work for Wild Earth, did an amazing article on. That's very, very pretty. Sorry, I will get back to that question in a moment, but that's too pretty to ignore. How beautiful is that? The shimmer of a green wood hoopoe sifting through the bark of this acacia tree and managing to find probably termites and other things underneath it, using that incredibly sensitive bill to probe underneath and then catch whatever happens to be unlucky. Oh, this is really awesome. You see a beautiful view of the white spots underneath the tail and that amazing iridescent sheen of the feathers. Now, this is a bird that is completely black in those places, and that sheen is created by reflection and refraction of light, by the overlays of the keratin in the feathers. Stunning. Absolutely beautiful. Worth a little bit of a distraction from the question on strawberry leopards. So, strawberry leopards, there was one around Lydenburg. There was also a melanistic leopard heard of around Lydenburg. They're around. We just don't see them very often. I mean, we don't... It's unusual. It's a rare genetic abnormality. So we don't see them that frequent. I've never seen one. But they are definitely around and about. In this area, probably not. We'd probably know about it if they were, but that being said, a leopard can move hundreds of kilometers, particularly if it is a male. So the fact that there isn't one here today doesn't mean that there couldn't be one tomorrow. And the same applies for the white lion gene. As I'm sure you know, most of the white lions so a large percentage of the white lion genetics comes from a place called the Timbavati. And of course, we are connected to the Timbavati. It's all open. There's no fences between us and them. I see it. I still see it. Can you see it there on the bush? Well done. We're having a bird morning this morning, unintentionally. Well done, Jandre. He's there on that curve. Well done. Awesome. Another kingfisher to add to your list, I think also brown-hooded. That was the one that you had with James, wasn't it? Brown-hooded? Yeah. This is also a brown-hooded kingfisher. The birds are keeping us from answering our question on white lions this morning. But another beautiful little bird. Well spotted, Jandre. Jandre's on form. It must have been the stubbed toe that's keeping him going. I was going to finish that story. I will in a moment. But let's go back to the white lions. The white lion genetics occasionally pop out elsewhere. So the Lubombo Mountains, all the way on the other side of Kruger National Park, all of a sudden one of their lion prides had a white lion cub. So it is possible. It's rare, but it is possible. Can you imagine if the Nkuhumas, if one day Amber Eyes had a white lion cub? Can you imagine? There'd be mass celebration. As we trundle along, I'm going to make my way towards the southern boundary in the hope that perhaps the leopards decide to pop out. I'm going to send you back over to James and his lovely elephants. However, be warned, he is busy doing a VR segment. In other words, that virtual reality ball. He'll explain that more when he's done. So if he's ignoring your questions, it's not because he's ignoring you or that he doesn't like you at all. It's just that he's busy doing a VR segment. So go and have a look at his Ellies.
And here he comes. You might take a few more steps closer towards us. And just all around we can hear the call of elephant behind him. So if you look towards him and behind him, we can hear another herd of elephants calling. And then to the right hand side we can hear them calling. They make that very deep throated sound, and most of it inaudible to the human ear. And this young bull just trying to keep his distance from the rest of the herd, because he's now probably about, I'd say maybe 15 years old. And that means that he's come to a time of his life, well, when he just doesn't want to be too much around the mums and youngsters, in exactly the same way as a 15-year-old human being starts to distance himself slightly from his parents and younger siblings. He's a cool cat, you see, eating on his splendid thorn tree on the Monday morning. And all around us the birds of the new spring are starting to call. Got a hoopoo going boop boop boop. A white-browed scrub robin going it's all rather peaceful. There you can see now, if you look straight towards him, and his trunk, you can see A, the dexterity of it, and B, the fact that he's actually eating wood. Now, I don't know what you can see from where you're sitting there, but maybe you can see over the top of his head onto his back, and you can see his shoulders sticking out. And if you look around him, you can see his hips sticking out. This is a function of the drought that we've been having. So it hasn't been a very easy time for elephants, especially because they have to eat so much. Big bull, 300 kilograms a day. Young bull like this, probably about 150 kilograms of food a day. That's almost, just over 300 pounds of food in one day. And during a drought, they're going to struggle to find enough to eat. And you may have heard just in the distance a screaming sound. It's another young elephant within another herd that's got cross, throwing a bit of a tantrum. This guy's just being fantastically confiding. I suspect he's related to the cow off to the right in front. If you look over there, you can see her. And just keep glancing up to the sky every so often and see if you don't spot a vulture flying overhead. It's just starting to warm up now, and that means that the vultures and the eagles will start to use the thermals to rise up and fly into the sky. Now he's turning back to this hapless, splendid thorn tree where he's going to continue his breakfast. Okay, everybody, we're back. We're turning off the VR rig. We kind of hoped he might come a little bit closer, but there it is. He did give us one or two little shouts while you were away looking at the green wood hoopoo with Jamie and the duiker, but now he's calmed down again and is eating his splendid thorn tree. And incredibly skillfully, well, that's not so incredibly skillful, that's just his tail, but he's I'll show you what I mean now once we've seen it. He's quite incredibly skillfully tucking the branches between his tusks and his trunk, and he wedges them there, and that's how he breaks off some of the thicker ones. But like I say, I have seen elephants in much better nick than this, I must say. Justin, you're interested in how complex of a puzzle an elephant could solve. Well, I think were you to give him a fairly advanced geometrical problem, he could probably use the Euclid to solve it. No, Justin, I don't know. It's an impossible question to answer. I mean, we know that elephants paint, for example. If you give them paint, some of them will actually pick up a brush and paint on canvas. That is in captivity, though. But I think that their problem-solving ability is probably very good, and that's because of the problem that they need to solve when it comes to getting enough to eat and finding water to drink and looking after kids and their complicated social structure indicates that they would be relatively good at problem solving. Would they be as good as, say, a gorilla or a chimpanzee? No, I don't think they would be. But they have a different kind of intelligence, I suppose. But I'm not sure that they would be able to solve particularly complex puzzles. That's an interesting one. I mean, we know that rats, for example, will learn a maze very quickly. You can remove half the brain of a rat. You read these horrible experiments that they've done, and you can take out everything but the brain stem, basically, and a rat will still learn to find food through a maze. Now, I imagine an elephant, with its fairly vast brain, is probably equally adept as that. So maybe they would sort things like mazes out. I don't know that you could ever teach one to calculate something like you can with some of the other primates. I think you can teach a chimpanzee to count to 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. Brian is nodding at me, he says yes. But I don't know that you could teach an elephant to count to 4 or 5. But also, you know, the closer we get to something like a primate, like an enormous, like a chimpanzee or a gorilla, the larger our ability is to communicate with them on a sort of similar level, because they communicate with facial expressions, they communicate by looking into each other's eyes, and they pick up many of the same signals that we as human beings pick up from each other. And when you look at an elephant's facial structure is completely different, and so to be able to pick up an emotion from an elephant's face is impossible, in the same way that it's impossible to pick up an emotion from an impala's face, because it just doesn't have the musculature to show you how it feels. And so I think because of that, it's much easier to discover, for example, how capable a primate is at solving a problem than it is to discover how good an elephant is at solving a problem. Now Louise has spotted a snake skin on this tree behind the Ellie's trunk. Do you see it there, Brian?
Not currently.
It could well be there. I don't see it currently either. Louise, shout if you see it again. Quite interesting. Jamie's just said that there's a report of Karula, Tingana and Shadow heading north towards Vuyatela, which is quite nice. So they might actually come onto Djuma. We're not too far from that particular area, but let's find out from Jamie. Right, there's the snake skin, apparently just to the left of his tusk. Ah, well spotted, Louise. Now that could easily be a worm slung or tree snake, and I say that because of the shape. And what they do is they climb onto these trees and they hook the nose or the nasal scales onto a thorn, and then they wriggle out of their old skin, and then off they go to terrorize the world. Now, I'm obviously being facetious. Snakes are not very terrifying. All right, let's leave this fellow to his breakfast, I think, and move on and see what else we can see. What do you say, Brian? Yes, I think it's a good idea. We've had a lovely time with him. He's been very confiding. Don't get upset. Come on now. He's just saying, why are you making a noise now? You're disturbing me. Go away. And we're saying, no problem. We will go away. And there's the rest of the herd. Totally relaxed around us, which is just the best. I'm just going to find out from Jamie where she is so that we don't sort of double up and go in the same places. Jamie, do you copy? Jamie, do you copy Jamie? I think she's on the other channel trying to find out what's going on with those leopards. Anyway, we'll go down towards Twin Dams, have a look and see around there. So I don't know where these lions have gone. There are elephants all over the place here. I've just seen Rexon come down this road, so I don't think there are any lion tracks around here, but let's see what else we can find on this very soporific, peaceful morning on the 5th of spring. Hello Debbie, you say with the warmer weather on its way, when are we going to start seeing more snakes and tarantulas? Well, Debbie, we could probably start seeing tarantulas, aka baboon spiders, fairly soon. They are around, and I think they just close up shop during the winter time, but you can find them in the winter, and we did see a few of them in the winter. Snakes, around about now, you know, it started to warm up. They also need water, and so it's basically after the first rains that things like snakes are going to start spending more time out. But we don't see a lot of snakes here, you know. I have not seen many snakes since I've been here, and that's not to say that they're not around. There are plenty of them around. They just tend to avoid noisy things like the cars, and they avoid us when we're walking. But I have seen the odd snake. But it is much more likely, as you say, during the summer months to see a snake than it is during the winter. We're heading towards Twin Dams now. Not Twin Dams. Oh, there's a giraffe. I meant Treehouse Dam. Oh, sorry, Brian. Let us ease our way around the corner here and say hello to the Rafi. Eating tambuti tree, interestingly, very toxic to the human being. How's that, Brian? Look, delicious tambuti tree, full of toxic latex. That is not good for people. It's okay for giraffes, very good for black rhino. Just taking my jersey off, Brian, it's getting a bit warm. And also eaten astonishingly at the base by porcupines. They love the tambuti tree. Again, I'm struck by the subtle calls of the birds just starting to sort of get active as the spring starts to take hold. Isn't that nice? So nice. And he's standing on a slope, you know, and a giraffe is vulnerable on a slope like that because they're not particularly, they're not that agile, and because they're quite top heavy for obvious reasons, if a lion is ever chasing a giraffe, because they're quite difficult to kill, they will try and herd them towards a drainage line like this, because if a giraffe has to run down and through a drainage line like this, it's very often that they'll fall over and break something, and then the lions can get at them. Well, far from just going to find out about the leopards, she's actually found them. Let's go and look.
We have indeed, with help from some of the Chitwa guides, we once again find ourselves in the incredible position where we have 3 leopards in one sighting. In this case, Tingana, Shadow and Karula. That being said, I have absolutely no idea where Karula is. I've been told that she is here. I'm relatively certain that that is Shadow, and that Tingana's just off to the left there, for those of you that are keen-eyed. Karula apparently was just here somewhere, but I can't see her anywhere in the vicinity. We're going to start talking about this amazing sighting in 1 second. I do, however, need the opportunity to just call it in on the Northern Game Drive channel and just get some people moving in. It does look like they're going to start coming across towards our direction. The reason why we can't reposition is because this is Little Gowrie. So we cannot go onto this particular property. We have to wait for them to come to us. Oh, amazing times. Obviously, Karula's decided that she's going to keep a very, very close and watchful eye on these two. I suspect she's been following them around more than it's the other way around. So whenever Tingana basically will go wherever he wants to go. Shadow, as the female in Estrus, will follow along with him. And Karula, because this is in her territory, is just seriously unimpressed by the whole deal. So she's on the outskirts, hanging around, kind of better the danger you see than the danger you don't, although neither of them are particularly risky for her in terms of being in her territory. It's just the fact that Tingana has brought another lady into her home. Even if it is her daughter, she's not terribly impressed with it. So that's why we've still got all three of them together. I just don't know where the third is.
We're on our way, but should I not have come down the fire break, maybe?
And Shamsun, I'm afraid not, as much as we would like to think of it as a family reunion with the cubs. I think Karula's purely following these two around because she's cross. She's cross about the fact that her daughter is in her territory. I don't think we have any reunion scenes planned with Auntie Shadow, or would she be Auntie? Hold on. Family tree. Yes, she'd be Auntie Shadow. Tax, sorry, I've been trying to wait for a chance to talk on the Game Drive comms. Let's just go over to James, see what he's got. Oh, no, we're staying with us. I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on. Hold on one moment. Tax, we've got visual of these three Ingwe from Gowrie, Main, just maybe 100 meters west of Weaver's Nest Junction. It's just myself here. You're welcome to make your way.
Confirm I can make my way that side.
That's affirmative. They're still on the southern side of the road, but there's clear visual of at least two of them.
Okay, copy that, thanks. No medium over there.
I think we missed all of them.
Okay, I'll see you now on China Kasla. I'll join the remain west.
Copy. Okay, sorry everybody about that. Minor confusion there, but we are all under control. I've managed to call Tax in. I'm going to ask him to manage this sighting so that we can chat a little bit more about these particular leopards and what's going on here. So no family reunions. Shadow she is the aunt, right? No, she's their sister. She's their half-sister. Gosh, leopards are terribly confusing to me. terribly, terribly confusing. That explains it. So we had some minor confusion there with Lou telling me that she's their sister, but for some reason I heard that as quick link. Chandra, I don't know what you heard. Anyway, I thought James had something terribly exciting he wanted to show you. And, so she's their sister, and it's not impossible. We have heard of situations, and I've seen situations where a female is feeding her cubs and she's got an older sibling with her that is then sharing the kill. The difficulty is, of course, that Shadow, as far as we know, as far as we knew, is the mother of a cub that is just a month younger than Karula's. As for what's happened to her poor little cub, we really don't know. It's not looking very positive at this stage. Obviously, Shadow's got something physical about her that makes her body go into estrus on or slightly earlier basis than she might otherwise. I'm going to just try and go forward a little bit. I think it might improve our view of Tingana. And it gives me a chance to look for wherever Karula may be, unless she's not crossed behind me. That did not help at all. Sort of got a view of Tingana. I'll stop so you can see him quickly. I don't know, that's probably about as good as it's going to get. Now, of course, everybody was terribly, including myself, of course, was terribly concerned about Karula's cubs during that incredible sighting with hyenas and wild dogs and Tingana in the smallest marula tree in the world, or the thinnest marula tree in the world. Smiley, we know that the next day Herbert tracked her or Karula and her 2 cubs south, so she moved them. Probably, I mean, Karula knows what she's doing. She knew to move them away before she decided to return to this situation. Now, she moved them off somewhere to the safe, and she's now just following along behind with Shadow and Tingana, just generally unimpressed with life. And for now, I think this has probably been the situation over the last 2 days, but there seems to be something of a stalemate. Shadow and Tingana are apparently mating, so that's something that we might see in the next few moments. As you know, leopard mating is a relatively regular experience. Every couple of minutes or so, depending on the temperature of the day, and today is not particularly warm, but for now, Shadow's just taking the opportunity to groom herself. I feel quite sorry for Shadow. She seems to have had a very stressful few days. The last time we saw her, she'd been chased up a tree by hyenas, and to call it a tree would be to exaggerate slightly. It wasn't so much a tree as a twig. And Tingana managed to get himself up a beautiful marula tree, nice, big, comfortable spot, but poor Shadow had to make do elsewhere. And then she was pacing around at the bottom of the marula tree, looking longingly up at Tingana, waiting for him to come down and pay some attention to her. Mike, you can make your way.
Standing by.
No minimum today.
On the second, you're the third text.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that we do, of course, as you know, is collect data, or collect leopard scat in order to pass on the DNA data to Panthera. And Shamsun, no, as far as I know, the scat will not contain any hormonal clues that might provide us with evidence as to why it is that Shadow seems to go into estrus so quickly, and there's nothing really physically wrong with her. Just her body goes into estrus a little bit sooner. The reason I say that is hormones, as basically proteins, are going to break down almost immediately. You need some really seriously fresh scat to be brushed off to be tested before you'll be able to determine whether or not there's any hormonal imbalance. So I don't think we're looking at a hormonal imbalance. It just happens slightly faster. So no, that's not something, and it's also something that would be incredibly costly to do. It'd be interesting in terms of scientific research and scientific information, but there's nothing that anybody could do in order to correct it or sort it out. Amazing, the flexibility of leopards. Look at her reaching back between her shoulder blades there. Oh, hold on. What was that? Here we go again. That was a very uncomfortable spot. And there we go. The whole very noisy mating leopard process. Ooh. See that snarl. Generally the females have tremendous aggression during this time of their lives, and the males as well. It's because, as you know, the male's penis is barbed, so that whole process is terribly uncomfortable for her. And it means that she turns around and attempts to bat him. He bites her on the back of the neck to stop her from hurting him during the whole process, but then as soon as he goes to dismount, then she turns around and swats him, which she couldn't really do in that particular scenario because... Whoa! She's still growling at him. She couldn't really turn around and hit him in this particular situation because there were branches in the way. And we are going to have to give up our view at some point. We've probably got the best of the views at the moment, but at some point we'll have to shift around so that Tax could come and his guests can see them. They've unfortunately just popped themselves in the worst possible position. So we might have to do some shifting around in a moment. So while we do, let's go across to James for a quick update on his side. Tax, come take my place. I'll shift for you.
There was a diker there, everybody. We've come on where we found now some lion tracks, some new ones. I don't know how fresh they are. They look a little bit windswept to me, but I don't know that anyone's driven down this road yet. So they could have come back into this area. We might just bump into them down the road here. And that would be very nice, wouldn't it, Brian? Yes. What we'll see. There's a lovely leafy glade just through here, where if I was a lion in search of a resting place, well, I think that's what I'd choose, really. Should be something in there, in the leafy glade. Here it is. We're arriving at the leafy glade, Brian. Quite a turn up for the books, the 3 leopards pitched up. Very nice. Now what we're going to do is just stop and have a listen here and see if we can't hear the lion cubs. I haven't got their tracks anymore, which means I think they've probably gone in off to the right hand side there. Whether they've remained there or not, I don't know. Hello, World Justice. An interesting question from you about lion cubs and how far they can walk. It really does depend on how old they are. The current crop of 7 weeks, 11 weeks and roughly 14 weeks, that's quite rough. I think you'd find that the older ones could probably walk almost as far as the adults could. Now, well, I don't know, say 4 or 5 kilometers in the night. You hear something, Brian?
But I didn't.
But the smaller ones maybe just 2 or so kilometers. Okay, Karula is coming into Vuyatela. Let's go have a look.
Look at this beautiful shot of Fanwell, Taxon's amazing tracker, and the Queen of Djuma. And by the way, welcome back on board the Jerry Springer Show, which is exactly what Chandra and I have just been discussing,
We can reverse out
with Karula watching her daughter mate with the current father of her cubs. Keep track of all of that. There's a certain complication within the leopard world. There's all kinds of things that happen. They, of course, are not guided by the same code of conduct that we are, much like the people on the Jerry Springer Show, I imagine. But it is quite... Oh, she's actually going. Karula's actually moving off now. She might come back, but she might also have decided that it's time for her to let this whole situation lie and go and sort out her young cubs. Good girl. She's slowly disappearing into... Well, she's not disappearing, she's walking parallel along Gowrie Main. So she's probably feeling a little bit hungry. She, of course, lost her impala kill to Tingana, as if the scenes couldn't get any more dramatic than they already were. She lost her impala kill to Tingana, which meant that she didn't really get to eat her full, and neither did her cubs. And now she's moved them away to safety. At some point she's got to go and find them some food as well. And I think that is her plan now. So we arrived at the perfect time because the Queen is on her way. And as she slowly melts into the vegetation, Lady Lone Wolf... No, she's not a danger to, most likely not a danger to Karula's cubs. She's related to Karula. It's quite unusual. Sometimes female leopards do kill the cubs of other female leopards, but usually not in a situation where it's a mother-daughter or a related relationship in some way. It does occasionally happen, but it's very, very unusual. So chances are that no, Shadow is not a threat to Karula's cubs. I don't think she'd do them any harm. I also think that oh, that's awesome. What a beautiful view. I also don't think that, I think that Shadow is weaker than Karula, personally. I think that Karula's actually a little bit stockier than her daughter, and one of the reasons why she's more successful in terms of hoisting her kills. And I think that Karula would be more than capable of protecting those cubs. And the first thing we noticed, there's the characteristic Karula tail twitch. The first thing we noticed when Shadow and Tingana came into the sighting was when Shadow started walking in the direction of Karula's cubs, she immediately headed her off and actually ended up chasing her a little way away. I don't think Shadow is a really major threat to Karula's royal babies, to her younger siblings actually, or younger half-siblings. No wonder I keep getting so confused. It's very complicated. All we need is the unveiling of the Panthera DNA paternity results and we'll have a full-on soap opera. When shock and horror it turns out that Tingana is not the father. He will probably be, of course. There's a very good chance that he is. A really lovely view of the Queen in the morning sunlight. Come on, girl, come north. Come hunt north. I wonder if she feels under pressure. She must know that Nchila is also in her territory as well. And I wonder if she feels pressurized by her daughter, Nchila. The Queen's enormous home range is slowly shrinking. Off she goes. Well done, Gendre. Awesome. She's not really playing ball though, is she? She's just a little bit too far. Come on, girl. Come this way. There she goes. She's going deeper into Chitwa. Oh, sorry, not Chitwa, Little Gowrie. I'm just going to gently nudge Mike's vehicle. Oh, there's a Dacre. There's a Dacre. I don't think it's realized she's there. Let me go forward a little bit. She's... Just wait. I can't move now. She's hunting. There's the Dacre coming into the road. She's hunting. She's stalking a Dacre. She's gone completely flat. I can't even see her. There goes the Dacre at the back. Sure. I think it's gone that little bit too far from her. I don't think that Dacre realizes just how close it came. I've lost visual of both of them now. Unfortunately, I can't reposition just yet. We know that she's stalking somewhere here. Let's see if you can spot her. When it happens, if it happens, it's going to happen unbelievably quickly. There she is. She's up. She's given up. There she goes. I don't think that Dacre even knew she was there. I don't even know where she popped up from there. Not a clue. That's incredible. She went completely flat. It's amazing. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So she went completely flat down onto her belly there. As that Dacre walked past it, it just picked a good, well, the worst line for her, the best line for it, because it must have moved just that little bit away from where she was, and she didn't quite have that element of surprise. She's stalking again, or is she moving? I've chosen to stay with Karula just because she is on the move. The other two are going to be sort of sleeping back there for a while. They might decide to cross. But let's stick with her for now, because she's clearly on the hunt. Oh, that was so close. That Dacre, if it had just walked maybe 10 meters slightly, oh, there she goes. Maybe 10 meters difference to where it walked, and you would have seen it, and she would have caught it. Then just bear with me one moment. Do you mind if I nip ahead? Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Here she goes. She's moving fast now. Unfortunately, on our southern boundary, I can see her through this gap. She should pop out. I could see her through this gap. Now I can't see anything. I think that might be the end of our Queen Karula sighting. While I attempt to find her once again, let's jump back onto board with James and find out what he's up to.
I feel slightly like we're on Groundhog Day here, everyone. Every time you come back here, I've got nothing really to tell you that is new. At least you've had Karula, the Great Queen. We've come past here. I've now searched absolutely every single road that I can in this section of Djuma. And so, well, bar one more, which we're going to go down now. I don't know where these lions are. I think they're probably in the thick block. I'm not going to worry about them anymore. They don't want to see me. Or Brian. No. Do they, Brian?
No, they don't.
No. Now let's link back to Karula.
Okay, well, I was just trying to take an opportunity quickly to be on the Game Drive channel. The Queen has disappeared. So bear with me one moment, I'm sorry. I just need to carry on this conversation. Look to your left. The Muffa's on her way that side. Otherwise, you're welcome to make your way into the other two, which Taxon's a little bit further west with them. Sorry everybody, just helping to direct vehicles into the sighting. I can't see her now, I've lost her. Where did you go, girl? Hi guys! Where did she go? Okay, we are pulling out of the Shadow and Tingana sighting since there are other vehicles. I'm not sure whether Mike has gone. Oh, goodness gracious. Lots of conversations happening now on the Game Drive comms. I've lost her, Chandra. I can't see her. I think she might have gone into that drainage line.
Okay, if he's in front of you, on the top of the bank there, there's that tree there. Just straight in front.
Where did you go? Oh, there's a Steenbok. I wonder if she spotted that. I don't think so. I think we're a little bit further ahead of her. But the Steenbok is on alert.
You see him, Ephraim? He's on top of the bank.
I think it might have heard something, but it doesn't realize
Right in front of you.
that she's around that area.
In front of him, lying flat.
Gone back to nibbling away.
Can you not get any further forward than you are? If I see the tail, it goes for the vehicle. Shut it down. Little Steenbok, you don't realize how precarious your position is right now. This is a very difficult situation because I don't know exactly where Karula is, and I don't know whether or not she has spotted this little bite-sized meal. And the little female Steenbok, very much on alert. The wind is starting to swirl, which is of immediate advantage to Karula and to the Steenbok's disadvantage as she starts to sneak up. If indeed she is sneaking up, I can't tell because I don't know where exactly she is. Alan for Jamie. Sorry everybody, I do have to try and control the sighting as well.
Almost a spot with the bomber that in Yaru on the eastern side of the Danish line and on the eastern side of the Arikat line itself.
Never mind, I give up.
Copy that. Just what's the best approach?
And James has just heard from Rexon that the lion cubs are actually not far away from where they were with that buffalo kill not too long ago. So that's what the conversation is about at the moment. This little Steenbok nibbling away, all innocent. I'm gonna reposition. I'm going to go backwards because I'm not 100% sure. We could sit here for the next 10 years. Not quite. That's an exaggeration. We could sit here for ages and it will turn out that Karula's gone in completely the opposite direction. Now we're far enough away that we can reposition without
Oh, I think he spotted her. She's just dashed off. Just double check. Steenbok hasn't gone too far away. We saw how flat she went earlier. You know how difficult it will be to spot her now that we can't go follow in off-road. I don't know where she's gone. I think she's gone further in. I honestly do. I think that she's gone further into Little Gowrie, moving along the safety of this dip, or that drainage line. And Shamsun's absolutely right. It would be amazing if Karula were to jump out of the bushes all of a sudden and grab the Steenbok. It would actually be quite sad in a way, because we spent so long watching that little Steenbok nibble away innocently. But the queen is looking very hungry, and we know that she has 2 other little mouths to feed. And I think today was that Steenbok's lucky day. I think it just happened to be on the right side of the crest. I don't think Karula would have seen it from that angle that she was walking at. And we wanted to make the kill on this side. Well, I mean, obviously we wanted to make a kill wherever she is able to. But ideally, if it could be on this side of the road, that would be lovely. And a very good point from Lou, that if Karula had managed to steal that Steenbok or that Deka, and catch that Steenbok or Deka, then there's a very good chance that Tingana would have stolen it, since he is so close to this vicinity. Very valid point. That is probably exactly what would have happened. Tingana would have come along and done exactly what he did to her with the impala carcass, unless she got lucky and he didn't manage to smell it and he moved off in an opposite direction. If he didn't stay with Karula, if he moved in a different direction, she might have got lucky. But I think ideally she needs to go and hunt a little bit further afield, away from him. Tax.
Go ahead.
Is it just the 2 vehicles there?
There's 3 vehicles now. They both have joined.
Copy that, no problem. I'm going to be pulling out of this sighting. Karula's gone further to the south.
Yeah, also here, she went more west, and Tingana is just walking around trying to find her. She lost her lead.
Okay, copy. Thanks very much. I'm going to be pulling out. Alrighty, guys, there are 3 vehicles in that particular sighting, so we're going to be moving out and leaving them to do their thing. It seems as though Shadow is moving south of the boundary, so she's moving off a little bit further, and she's probably, unfortunately, going to be leading Tingana in the wrong direction as well. So keep on moving, pushing further and further to the south. We need them to come north, just that little bit further to the north. The wind is starting to pick up, which is good news for the Queen Karula as she goes about hunting. It'll definitely work to her advantage, and it'll also potentially work in terms of blowing the scent of the kill away from wherever Tingana happens to be. The fact that Shadow Shingana, mixing up all the words now, mixing up all the names. The fact that Shadow, that one. Shadow is moving west with Tingana is good. It means that Karula will finally have some peace and be able to move off a little bit. Now I do know Karula relatively well, and there's a good chance that she's going to go south for a little bit before she decides to pop back north again. She's one of the most unpredictable leopards in terms of her movements. And what I might do is just, I think now is an appropriate time to use the word lurk. I'm going to lurk around the southern boundary. Unfortunately, I'm not hearing names coming through very clearly at the moment. I don't know why my radio is a little bit muffly. But Selena, there we go. Selena, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. I hope you enjoyed that sighting of those leopards. A truly magical experience to be able to see 3 leopards in one different sighting. The answer to your question about what Karula does when she makes a kill with her cubs is she stashes the kill. And if she can, she'll put it in a tree, obviously, because that's the safest possible spot for it. So she will stash her kill and she will go and fetch the cubs and take them to it. And that applies across the board from their first few weeks and months of life right up until they are almost at the stage of independence. Sometimes towards the later months of when they're over a year old, they might be with her while she's hunting. But for the most part, she leaves them, she goes and she hunts, and then she goes and fetches them. It's one of the reasons why we get so excited when you see a female leopard with one set of tracks going one way and then going back with cubs. You immediately know that there's something exciting there. Since they tend to, from what we've observed, they actually tend to walk pretty much a direct straight line, or on the roads at least, which means that they usually follow exactly the same pathway, so you can figure out exactly what's going on there. So Karula will go and make a kill, preferably here if she would be so kind, but wherever she manages to catch something, and then she'll go and she'll fetch her little cubs. The plan is just to do a little bit of a loop and then come back to the southern boundary and see whether she doesn't pop out close to perhaps Twin Dams or one of her other favorite areas in that side. What it does tell me is that whichever leopard I was tracking this morning was not Karula, Shadow, or Tingana. Well, I knew it wasn't Tingana, but it was not Shadow or Karula. The next one, of course, on the list that we've got to see is Tundi and her brand new cubs. So Tundi is the twin sister of Shadow, and she's got a very, very young set of little leopard cubs, so that's something that we're excited about seeing as well. Hello, boy. Aren't you beautiful? Standing tall on the opposite side of a drainage line wall. Beautiful old male. I recognize this particular guy just by that balding patch around his neck where the oxpeckers have been pecking away at his sensitive skin. And his slightly skew ossicones, so the horns on the top of his head. So a magnificent male giraffe. And as he stares pensively off into the distance, I have wonderful news. Mr. Henry has done it once again and managed to find you some gorgeous bundles of joy for your morning safari.
Absolutely nothing to do with me, everybody. This was purely the brilliance of Rexon, who first found you the 3 leopards, and then he found the lions. So that's very useful of him. Herbert has been, he's on leave now, and so Rexon is helping us out, and he's doing a fantastic, fantastic job. Isn't this great? It's not too, it really isn't far from where they were found yesterday. So I suspect what the adults did was they walked around in the night and they left their tracks all over the place, but they probably left the youngsters right here. She's had enough of the youngsters trying to feed. They get very cross when they want to eat and they're not allowed to. I think what's interesting with these lion cubs is that they do get very fat when they're little, you know, but once they start to get to the age where they are going to think about, well, they're not going to think about it, but where they have to start eating meat, I think the milk production from the mothers goes down a bit, and they can start to look a bit scraggly, a little bit like a teenager that's kind of had a growth spurt and not quite filled out yet. I'm just going to move slightly. Ach no, let's wait here for now. He's doing such a nice performance for us. Excellent performance, Brian. Yes. The roly-poly, I think it's called. Very sweet. Very good question from Joan, you say, when the female lion cubs, so the little lionesses, become adults and fully functioning members of the pride, will there be any dominance from the older ones towards them, or will there be some kind of protectionism? Joan, dominance in lion hierarchy tends to function purely on the basis of size. So, no, once the youngsters get big enough to compete at a kill site, for example, then there will be no dominance. It will be purely dependent on size, in the same way that it is right now. I think we often mistake Amber Eyes for some kind of leader or dominant lioness in this pride because she's just obviously so distinctive. I don't think she's any bigger. She might be slightly bigger than some of the others. And there's a little teddy bear lion cub. It's too sweet. Look. These are the best ones, I think, at the moment. The smallest ones. They're so fat. In a very healthy kind of a way. They remind me of my nephew William when he was a youngster. He was a fat, healthy little boy. And so every time I see these chaps, I do hope he and his mother are not watching. Every time I look at these chaps, I think of him. Just could not be more content if it tried, could it? And the desire, of course, to get out, walk over there and pick it up and squeeze it, cuddle a tiny little thing like that is enormous, until, of course, Brian pans slightly to the left. You realise that were you to get out of the car and go and try and cuddle that thing, you'd be faced with that. That would not be fun, would it, Brian? No. No.
Not cuddly either.
Not cuddly, not fun, many sharp points.
Although she would try and cuddle you.
She would, yes. Yes. You see, she agrees. You want to cuddle? And they are going to settle in for a hard sleep now, I think. Cadria, you're wondering if the Rexon I've just mentioned is your Rexon from the earlier days. I think it is. I think it is the very same. So he is back in the house, as it were. Which is very nice for us, especially. There, that's that. Remember, every time I stopped to listen today, that's what I was hoping to hear. And Laventia, you're wondering at what age the male cubs start to look bigger than the females. Laventia, I think you'll find at about a year it'll be pretty obvious. And maybe a bit before that. I'm just thinking, I didn't think it happened as early as it does with leopards, but Shongile seems to be noticeably smaller than Hosana these days. And they are now 6 months old, so they're older than these chaps. 7 months old, sorry. And so I think you'll find with lions which do get slightly bigger, by the time they're 7 or 8 months old, there probably will be a slight difference, but by the time they're a year old, it will become very obvious. And that's as puberty starts to happen. Oh, it's just too wonderful, this. The little teddy bear can't get comfortable. It keeps waking up. It must be a wonderful life as a lion cub when there isn't some sort of pride takeover going on or coalition takeover, because you just get to lie in that kind of sweet repose, completely oblivious to the trials and tribulations of life, your little pads open to the sun, breathing completely at peace, sleeping on a bed of fur that is your very own. Isn't that just too gorgeous? Hello, easy peasy, as we watch that lion cub seemingly without a care in its world. You want to know if they are in any danger from predators. They would be, but for the fact that the adults are here. So when they left them last night, and I'm pretty sure they did leave them last night, then they would have been in danger from animals like hyenas and leopards. You're absolutely correct. Hyenas and leopards could do some serious damage here, and would. If they came across the cubs without the adults here, then they would almost certainly kill them. But that didn't happen, and so everyone is fine. Right now, there is nothing that would come here and threaten these cubs, except a marauding band of new males. But even they would think twice about attacking a group of 5 lionesses. So while the adults are here, they're very, very safe. There's just a low rumbling growl coming from one of the mothers. Yeah, Susan, it's a good question. You say, how do you identify the difference between 2 lionesses? You say, is it facial markings or a sort of combination? It's definitely a combination. Susan Amber Eyes, for example, is extremely easy to identify because she has amber eyes. But the others, not so easy. They are of different ages, and so the oldest lioness has got a blunt, I think it's a bottom right canine. She's got a fairly blunt bottom right canine, so that's pretty obvious. And she's got a totally black nose. But the others, it is pretty much scars. You can do it from the spots, the whisker spot pattern above the sort of last line of whiskers. But unless you've got them, unless you've got sort of 5 minutes to count those spots, it's almost impossible. So yes, it's shape of the face, facial markings, nicks in the ear, blunted teeth, and a general sort of impression, I suppose. One of them's got a very long face. That little thing is so deeply satisfied with its life, isn't it, Brian? Which it deserves, of course, because life is not easy for a little lion like this. Once they get a little bit older, there's only a 1 in 10 chance that if that's one of the males, it will survive to take a pride of its own. So while it can rest and enjoy life, it should. Now they're begging for food now, you see. And Joanne, you say you're glad you're not the only one who would like to cuddle the cubs, but you wouldn't like to be dinner. Well, exactly. And remember, it is very much just a thought experiment. I'm not a fan of any kind of cub or lion petting. I was horrified when some lions are brought around to a school in Johannesburg the other day, like I mentioned. And, it's not a good idea, because we don't know what happens to those cubs once they become much bigger and much more scary. So it is purely a thought experiment. They're all gathering into a little carpet of sleeping cubs, groaning contentedly at each other. And they're just not quite relaxed, because they are little cubs and they like to play. So sweet. And here comes another lioness now from the left-hand side. She also doesn't want to be left out. She wants to be part of the carpet. She just wants some shade, I think. Right, I think Jamie's still looking for Karula. Let's go and find out how that's going.
We are indeed still looking for those leopards. I just want to stop here. This impala is looking particularly alert. Taxon is still with Tingana and Shadow, although they're still moving about on the southern side of our boundary. The impala, for a moment, looked incredibly on edge, but I think it's just the windy day that's making them nervous. We're not far away at all from where we last saw Karula. I think it's just rustling leaves and expectant nerves that's making these impala look as uncomfortable as they do. And for good reason. Somewhere in there, just to the south of us, the queen is on the hunt, looking to feed herself and her little ones. And knowing her, she is most likely going to be successful at some point over the next few hours. Now, unlike our lions that James is with at the moment, leopards are pretty versatile creatures. Moving about in the heat of the day is not something that's going to bother them terribly much, particularly not when there's an empty belly. So Karula could well be hunting throughout between the sunrise and the sunset safari. X-Ranger has not forgotten. Well done, X-Ranger. Gendre and his injuries. And Gendre is quite an accident-prone individual. He's saying no. I think all of the evidence attests to the contrary. Gendre, I think, has paid more visits to the Hoedspruit doctor than the rest of us combined. The last one, of course, was the terrible nail injury, which actually wasn't really his fault, although it could only have happened to Gendre. Oh my goodness, it was awful. Anyway, poor Gendre. We're busy doing the filming behind the scenes, and I was busy doing an elephant dung segment, and as you know, I'm not the tallest of the human beings, and Gendre was not quite happy with my height relative to the vehicle, so he decides he's going to find something for me to stand on. So off he dashes off, like a very eager, eager antelope or something, into the bushes, and returns with a large marula tree, which he then proceeds. I'm not quite sure how he managed it. It was truly special. He managed to drop it on his toe/leg/ how's your toenail? Is it still on there? It's hanging in there, but by the skin of its, by the skin, basically, by the sound of it. I asked him how he was. He says he's fine, and it's just a little bit of blood, and quite possibly a missing toenail. So poor Gendre, once again in the wars. Most unfortunate. Something's happening over here. Let's go and join them and see if Tingana hasn't popped out. So Gendre, I think, will remain in one piece. He's usually quite stoic about the whole thing. I suppose you'd have to be if you're as accident prone as Gendre is. You have to learn to be stoic.
As she's moving now, it's moving straight into the front.
Here we go. Let's go ahead. So there you go, X-Ranger. That is the story of Gendre's toe. And then he proceeded. I mean, the marula log that he got for me was so nice of him. But it was the least stable piece of wood I've ever been on. So there's me trying to balance and do this segment. It was hilarious. It looks as though Tingana is now going into the north. Let me just hold on one moment. Morning, Alan. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. How's it? Cheers. He's gone in here somewhere. Well, I think we shall continue our search for Mr. Tingana and his lovely consort, the Shadow, as well as the Queen Karula this afternoon on the Sunset Safari. But for now, it is time for me to say a big farewell and a thank you. So goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you to Gendre and his broken foot. And we'll catch up with you on the Sunset Safari. Bye-bye, everybody.
There's been an enormous amount going on here, Brian. I mean, the cats have, well, twitched slightly, but they're now fighting for shade. Here's Amber Eyes. Hello, Amber, my darling. How are you? Good. Excellent. Nice to see you. Why do you lie on top of your friend there? Why? You don't care, do you? You're not interested in my questions. No. Just go to sleep. She doesn't look very interested, does she, Brian?
Not at all.
No. Deeply disinterested, I would say. Now, we were chatting about the notable markings, for example. Now, Amber Eyes has got those amber eyes, but she's also got kind of a sort of black mohawk line down her back, which is quite interesting, which is unusual. Now, Honey Ocelot, you say you've just Googled lion eye color, and you read there that amber is the most common color for eyes in a lion. And then you're wondering if it's just in this particular area that it isn't like that. I think amber is actually is not the correct color to describe her eyes. I think they're orange, and I called her orange eyes originally, but I was corrected by the viewers, and they decided to call her Amber Eyes because Amber Eyes is actually a nicer name, really. But if you look at the other eyes, we just got the little ones there, and they're tinged with blue. They are the other eyes are sort of a yellowy amber color. They're not quite orange, but they are a yellowy amber color. But I would say that no, I'd say they're more honey colored than amber, and in between Amber Eyes and the normal colored lion's eyes for this area lies the actual color of amber. That's very sweet there. But so I've never seen lions in different areas with different colored eyes. No. Google, of course, a font of great information some of the time, and some of the time, well, it does depend on the interpretation that there is. Susan, you want to know when the lion cub's eyes will go from the sort of deep grey-blue colour to the yellowy amber colour. It will start to happen probably from when they wean, so from about 6 months they'll start to change. There we are, much suckling still to be done. And these little cubs will try and suckle as much as possible before they wean, and put on as much condition as they can before they must fight their own time at the kills, which will not be easy. Right, everybody, I'm really quite glad we found these things. I say we, I don't mean we at all, I mean Rexon. So thank you to Rexon. He found the leopards as well, so he's on fire. A big thank you to all of you for joining us on what was a quiet safari for the most part, but great to end it like this. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, James.
That is a lovely Monday
blues.
morning blues thumb. Yes, very nice. A big thank you to Louise in the final control with Kirsten McLennan Smithsonian, and of course to Jamie and David on the El Gendre on the other vehicle. We'll see you later during the Sunset Safari.